evening and welcome. I will call to order the Yakima City Council regular business meeting for March the 18th, 2025. We'll start with roll call, please.
Berg.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Byers.
Present.
Decio.
Here.
Glenn.
Here.
Herrera.
Here.
Roy.
Here.
Thank you. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'll have interpreter services.
Good evening. Si alguien necesita de la ayuda en intérprete, tenemos el sistema disponible para hacerlo. Thank you.
Gracias. Next on the agenda is public comment. There will be 35 minutes allotted for public comment with 2.5 minutes per speaker in order to allow as much opportunity as possible. If you wish to make a public comment, please make sure you fill out a form in the lobby and give it to the city clerk. When you come to the microphone, please identify yourself and the city in which you live. The first person for public comment this evening is Susan Massa.
Okay, yes, I'm Susan Meza, and I'm from the city of Yakima. And I'd like to address in general the budget, my views. For many years, Yakima has struggled with the financial needs of the city. We all need to wake up that in order to have services and amenities, we need to pay for them. Increasing taxes and fees will offer an opportunity for increased quality of life that we all want. We have let things fall far behind for far too long. We have to wake up out of the dark ages and step forward and face the facts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mesa. Next is Isaac Wheeler, is that correct? Yes. Thank you.
I'm Isaac Wheeler. I live in the city of Yakima. I'm here to address specifically item L on the agenda, the resolution authorizing a contract with Axon Enterprises. And my issue with this is, one, we're allotting $1 million to this when the city is failing to pay other things that are very important. Second, this company, Axon Enterprises, is problematic. If you just Google Axon Enterprises and controversy or evidence.com, which is the website that they utilize for the community engagement software that's mentioned here, you'll find really problematic things. I won't go into all of them, but I will go into one. I just want to read this. A criminal defense lawyer noted that evidence.com's term of service gives the company a non-exclusive, transferable, irrevocable, royalty-free, sub-licensable, worldwide license to use of photos and videos that are uploaded by its users. That means everything that is uploaded to this software, they claim is their property, and then they can utilize it any way they want. And that is not a good way to use the sensitive public information of the citizens of Yakima. So that's my opposition to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Next is Jim Anson.
Hello, my name is Jim Anson, and I live in Yakima City. And I'm an introvert, so I'm petrified to stand up here and talk to y'all.
You are very welcome.
Great job.
Okay. I wanted to speak to the Yakima Department of Recreation, Parks and Recreation. And that's a big topic and a lot of things to cover, so I'm going to limit my comments to the Harmon Center. I did a little looking into it because I wanted to know what I was talking about tonight. And the Harmon Center, the figure that I found, this is from 2024, the expense of the city was $384,000. That's a lot of money. But I also found that $150,000 is returned to the city through the revenue collected at the Harmon Center. So that makes it maybe not so expensive. And a couple of notes that I wanted to comment on too. One of the big things that they do at the Harmon Center is organize trips and tours. That's not included in the city budget because that's paid for by the people who go on the trips and tours. So again, that's not something to cut out. And a lot of the people who work to set that up are volunteers. I found out that between 50 and 55 volunteers per month work at the Harmon Center. That's a great labor force that, again, is costing the city nothing. There are so many great programs. I'm active in the Fitness Forever program. There's around 45 to 50 of us at each class, 2 classes each on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, partly pays for itself. I realize what we pay doesn't cover the entire expense, but it makes the expense of the city very, very reasonable. I don't know exactly what the number is per person that comes out of the city coffers, but it can't be very much. I have some other stats on the amount of hours the volunteers put in and that kind of thing. But all this information is privy to all of you guys through the city. So I hope you'll look through that before you make decisions on where the money is not going to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anson. And am I to acknowledge that all of you standing are in agreement with Mr. Anson supporting that? Thank you very much. Next is Sheila Haverfield.
Hi, I'm Sheila Haverfield. I live in West Valley in the county of Yakima. I've been going to the senior center since 2009. The senior center, for people who don't have family here, is their family. If you take that away from these people, they'll have nothing. They'll just be sitting home with nothing to do. Mental decline, physical decline. I mean, it's so important to the seniors. We have so much to offer them. I had brought a pamphlet and forgot it at home, but if you read the newsletter, it tells you all the programs that they offer. It's such a wonderful place. You need to go there and see how many people go there and how important it is to these people. You take this away, a lot of people are gonna die. I really feel that way because they will have nothing else. And also, Yakima is the 11th largest city out of 281 cities in Washington state. We should have a senior center. Smaller cities have senior centers. My daughter at Camino Island, they have a beautiful senior center, and that's a small city. Now you think of the seniors. There's a lot of seniors. Hundreds of them go to that center. I appreciate you really thinking about this and give us a chance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haverfield. Next is Dustin Kosey. Case, I'm sorry. It looked like an O, I'm sorry, okay. Excuse me, Dustin, go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Dustin Case. I'm from Yakima. I'm here to show my disapproval for the agenda item 7L to spend $1 million so that cops can tase more people more efficiently. Going over your wish list and seeing things like virtual reality headsets, copious amounts of tasers, and more taser cartridges than I could imagine being needed on a yearly basis. 1,700 taser cartridges per year. Do the police have quotas on how many people they need to tase in a year? This money could be used for actual good in the community instead of simply suppressing it.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Next is Ashley Haney.
Hello, my name is Ashley Haney. I'm a Yakima citizen here to oppose the spending of over $1 million to buy tasers and surveillance equipment for the Yakima Police Department. The equipment that we're planning to buy right now includes VR headsets, controllers for tasers, and controllers for handguns, which I don't see as necessary because the police already have target practice with real guns. I don't think that we should be spending money on this because it doesn't seem to be coming out of the police budget. It seems to be coming out of the city budget, which is already undergoing cuts. Also, this is not the military. This is for use in a local police department. We wouldn't be shooting foreign adversaries. It's assumed that it's for use on citizens. The quantities are absurd: 4 tablets per year, 4 headsets per year, 1,700 cartridges per year, and a surveillance camera network software which would be connected to other cameras, which they could request information from. I believe that we know that simulation software uses AI, which has bias from both the coders and the trainers, and I'm afraid that this could encourage cops to use tasers instead of de-escalation tactics. I think we should use this money for crisis outreach professionals because they're successful at de-escalation and can better respond to the needs of the community. And while we're at it, maybe spend the money at the senior center. Essentially, I feel like we're buying video games for the real-life training of killing or severely injuring citizens, and I oppose this budget measure.
Thank you, Ms. Haney. Next is Emily Case Wright.
Hi, my name is Emily Case Wright. I'm Yakima County. First, I want to say I am pro enforcement, law enforcement, so I'm not against law enforcement. I'm here for the Agenda 7L. Just feel like the amount of tasers is excessive. I feel like that could be something that could be put into, say, our roads in the city or bike lanes to make it, safer for people to be able to travel. So that is what I'm here for. Again, I am absolutely pro-life law enforcement, so that's not the issue. It's just the amount I feel like is excessive. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Next is Priscilla Ortega.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Ortega, and I live here in Yakima. I'm here to address the same decision, 7L, on giving the Yakima Police Department $1 million to buy tasers and then community engagement software. And community engagement is the word they choose to use. I didn't know that community engagement meant VR headsets and handgun and taser controllers and all the accessories that come with them. I know it's easy to just say yes, but they are the police, right? But YPD has used the word community to make it sound like they're helping and connecting with the community. When I'm looking at that receipt of the items that they're planning to buy, I'm seeing VR headsets, thousands of cartridges per year for their tasers, programs, in other words, like games for their VR headsets, so it's simulations. I can only assume that they claim to use this as training your team on how to shoot and tase people like it's a simulation, right? This is why people have kind of lost trust. You continue to criminalize people who have the least support, and this place really just needs community. I can't believe YPD is asking for this when the city is having to decide whether to close community centers, senior centers, youth programs, road and sidewalk maintenance. When you keep funding stuff like this to buy cops new ways to treat us like we're worthless, another faceless body that they claim they need more tasers because it's safer. this doesn't sound like community to me. You're using money to buy them new ways to harm the community instead. This isn't a game. That's the problem with people in positions of power. Every day starts to become the same. You start to lose focus. You start to forget to see people as individuals. People have been hurt instead of helped. Please don't lose focus on us and look at us as individual people. Support those who need it the most. Because right now it just seems like you just want us to be quiet and just take the abuse. You don't want to hear us speak sometimes. And right now it actually seems like you're just wanting to hear us scream. And I'm guessing that's why you might keep ignoring us. And that's why you need the tasers, right? To keep us quiet, maybe. I hope you take a stand and choose the actual community and don't lose focus. The community is begging you.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Next is Shelley White.
Hello, I'm Shelley White again from Yakima. Tonight I'm hoping that you've taken some time to look at some of the information that I have given you in the last couple of weeks. And tonight, I guess this was appropriate tonight, I want to very sincerely thank the council for the really extraordinary things you have accomplished in the last year and a half. Hiring a new city manager and a new police chief that understand our area and are really already doing a great job. And you've also worked tirelessly to try to balance our budget for the first time in a long time. And you weekly sit here and handle a myriad of things that truly boggle my mind. But I say this with all the sincerity that I can muster, this issue of removing all single-family zoning in the state of Washington and allowing 4 homes per city lot will be one of the most monumental things you will see in your entire tenure on the council, and probably maybe even in your lifetime. These new laws fundamentally erase the American dream of owning a family home as we know it. Most children growing up after this will no longer have yards to play in or quiet streets where they can learn to ride their bikes. School systems, health, and public services will feel a tremendous impact. And if you have problems with any of your new neighbors, you will have hard-to-reach, absentee, corporate landlords, and I'll talk more about that in later weeks, who care more about their bottom line than the quality of their renters and the condition of their properties. So tonight, as a bridge to next week, I want to also briefly share with you how I personally first became aware of the new laws and why I started to examine them more closely. In the fall of 2023, right after they were enacted into law, I attended a real estate law class. The class was taught by the lead attorney for the Washington Realtors Association. At the end of the class, she gave a proud, rousing rendition of all the housing legislation she had helped to pass in the 2023 session. Now, I'm sitting there listening to this and to what she is saying in increasing and frankly utter disbelief as she proudly describes the end of single-family housing in the state of Washington. But it was what happened at the end of the class that was the most disturbing. She ended the class by leaning forward toward us in a very secretive way and in a low voice said, "And for those of you who now know all about this, you are way ahead of the curve and you can make a lot of money." It was weird, it was unnerving, and the whole attitude just felt off the charts wrong. So next time I will begin, oh, sorry, okay.
Thank you very much, Ms. White.
You're welcome.
Next is Naomi Sanchez.
Hi, my name is Naomi Sanchez. I live in District 2, and I'm here to talk about, again, the contract that y'all are trying to give the police yet more money than they already have, over $1 million. I filled out your guys' budget survey the other day, and literally everything I saw on there was cutting programs for for young people in town, cutting services for elderly people in town. One of the biggest things that we talk about in Yakima is there's so much gang violence, there's so many youth getting involved in gangs, yet we're trying to eliminate any third space for them. We're trying to eliminate any type of program, any alternative for them to actually have. And then we're going to give the money to the cops instead to further criminalize the kids. Because we're not investing in them. So instead of giving the cops $1 million to further harass community members, to surveil us, to give this other company access to all of our privacy. They'll have everything that y'all upload to this software you're developing, or software that you're getting, they will use and in turn use it against us. We will have virtually no privacy whatsoever, violates the rights of our young people having any amount of privacy. These $1 million are essentially screwing over our community members. And y'all are willingly doing that by saying yes. So by saying yes to this, you guys are saying, we don't care about our young people. We don't care about our community members. And that says a lot about you, not just as a council, but as a person and your character. And so I'm urging you guys to say no. And if you say yes, I don't know how y'all are going to live with yourselves knowing that you're contributing to the harassment and criminalization of our young people.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Next is Michael Morrison.
Hello, y'all. I also live in District 2. Thank y'all for coming out and listening to us. I also want to talk about L on the resolution sheet here. Yakima deserves way better than to be sold out to a company named Axon Enterprises. We deserve privacy. We don't deserve to be surveilled and have all our information leaked to them for whatever this contract does. $1 million could fund so much stuff that they're trying to cut in the funding for everything else on the budget cut thing we looked at. So many $1 billion could fund many of those things that they're trying to cut. We deserve better as a city. Our kids deserve better, and we deserve not to be tased 700 times a year, I guess, for just living here and trying to do the best in our community. We're trying to uplift the community. $1 million could do so much to help the housing crisis, the drug crisis, everything that's most people have a problem with living here and living downtown. This could go to so many better things. We deserve better to be sold out to some corporate enterprise that does not care about us and will sell us out the first chance they can make a little bit of money. We need to come together and just have a better system, and we need to make sure that money isn't going to overly funded police departments. They can figure it out. We don't need to push them into the future while simultaneously trying to push the rest of the community into the past, where we don't have any resources for living a healthy, happy life, essentially. So that's mostly what I have to say. It's just the fact that it's listed as community engagement software when it's blatantly like surveillance state software is very disingenuous and shady. I'm really upset that it's called that on this list. We just need to send this money to anything, fund harm reduction, fund housing for homeless people. That alone would help our city grow so much more. People wouldn't be afraid to come outside, wouldn't be afraid to come downtown. That would make us so much more money in the end game than, frankly, doing nothing so cops can have a little bit of fun and practice tasing people. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Next is Samantha Zuno.
Hello, I'm Samantha Zuno. We already heard a lot of words from my peers. I'm really proud of them, honestly. I'm here as a community member, as a resident from 6th Ave. I actually only got involved in City Council because I was looking into the renovations of the 6th Ave where I live. And I see how much, it's a huge budget, it's a huge project, but I can just totally see into the future how that would work out for us if we did that, if we invested in the infrastructure of our city. And I imagine we could go into downtown and where there's no parking lots And we all know this, there's no parking lots, so those businesses just fail every year. We watch them fail, and it's so frustrating, and I'm imagining it's such an expensive expense for the city. And I see that they're planning to invest in the Yakima Police Department. So I wrote a little more words about this. So 3 years ago, I'll try to be fast. The YPD made a significant purchase for body cameras with this aim, and civil rights attorneys who were in support did so with the belief that it would increase transparency from the police department for its people. It is my belief that since this initiative, citizens have felt no more or less safe, and spending on yet another expensive measure that essentially would provide the same assumed advantages is not the solution to the issues the community of Yakima faces. Like I said, I'm a resident of the 6th Ave neighborhood. And that's just one of the many examples of the infrastructure needed, right? The timing of this request, along with the increased police presence and civilian arrests targeting the unhoused, undocumented, and otherwise vulnerable populations in our community, is sending a clear message to us. We are not here to protect you. We are here to uphold the system that is failing and falling apart before our very eyes. I urge the city to look and think clearly on the actions it is committing and whether those actions are in service of the entire community. A month ago, I witnessed an unhoused man that was eating ice cream at McDonald's on Yakima and First, and he was getting harassed and then was arrested for simply staying longer than the 30 minutes apparently allotted for eating at this location. The man in question was not doing anything remotely disruptive at the locale, yet a couple of employees reported him to the police. The police then questioned the man and one of the employees and took him out without another word. I approached this officer to ask what he had done wrong, and the officer pointed out the loitering signs at the locale. I then answered that he had not been there long and was just eating, and this officer responded that he had a warrant out for his arrest and signaled with his gun, and his tone made me feel too unsafe to even question him further.
Ms. Dino, I am so very sorry, but your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Very much for
I'm
coming.
sure I was heard. Thank you.
Next is Joe Daniels.
My new name is Yazoo. I'm the son of Goddess King Cleopatra and the son of King David. My sister's name is Ariel. This is not North America. This is Egypt, all the way down from Mexico to the Antarctica. This is my people home. It's not the caveman home. And the caveman who is running this system. Caveman, the brain was split into two halves. You got a positive half and a negative half. By them implementing them chips in the negative half of the brain, the positive half of the brain, it denied the caveman the ability to think clearly because they mess with tissues they couldn't mess with. So therefore, they're thinking mainly with that positive, negative part of the brain. So they implementing this on the positive, and that'd be the gay caveman and the gay cave woman. They're using this to take over the system, control the cave normal men and women to make AIs. You are the new AI. That's why they're coming up with all these medical terms and making these mechanical parts for the body. It's artificial intelligence. That's mean putting something in an object or a person that's falsely than what they believe and making them do it. And that's what the caveman, gay man been doing, and the caveman, gay woman been doing to their own people. That's why they coming with all these mechanisms and putting them on body parts to make you the new IA. That'll be the caveman and the cave woman who is normal. And that's the gay caveman and the gay cave woman. A message from the Lord came to me. The Lord said, son of man, you have a proverb in the land of Israel. It says the days go by and not even one vision comes true. Then tell them, the Lord the King says, I'm going to put an end to this proverb. They will not use this saying in Israel anymore. Tell them the days are coming soon when every vision will come true. There will be no more false visions. People will no longer use magic to find out whether good things are going to happen to them in Israel. I am the Lord. So I will say what I want to, and it will come true when I want it to. In your days, Yazoo, that'll be me, the Son. I will do everything I say. I will. But you people always refuse to obey me, announced the Lord and King. A message from the Lord came to me. The Lord said, son of man, the Israelites are saying the vision Ezekiel sees won't come true for many years. He is prophesying about a time that is long off, way off. So tell them, the Lord and King says, everything they say will come true. It will happen when I want it to come true, announced the Lord and King. And my sister Ariel was killed right here in Yakima, and there's no Guyana, Jonestown. This is Jonestown, where you massacred all those black people, those Israelites, and my sister. So, the time's come, caveman, gay man, and woman, to face the truth, because your end is near. Hallelujah. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Beeler, is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to address the council this evening? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, Mr. Beeler. We have one more. We have a Jack Cosmo. I'm sorry, I had your name reversed.
Cosmo?
Jack. Yeah.
Shikpakshay, yeah. Cosmo Jack. I came here to stand in opposition of item 7L. And there's not much I can say that hasn't already been said by my peers, and I'm very proud of them for coming out here to speak out and stand in solidarity with us. So, the only thing I feel that I can do is speak in hypotheticals. If I were a fascist, I would be reducing funding to community programs. If I were a fascist, I would be reducing funding to community centers for elders and all the community. Now, if I were a fascist, I would be giving money to those who have been prone to abuse their power. And if I were a fascist, I would be allocating $1.5 million to one of the most egregious police departments that I've had to encounter. But I came here to give the benefit of the doubt to we're all due process. If my words are going in one ear, out the other, then this ain't really the end of it, really. This is only the start of it. I will stand in opposition of it either way. If it goes through, if anyone here is a man or woman of conscience, I would want you to vote in opposition of this. And I thank you guys for giving all of us the time to voice our opinions and listening to us. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jack.
That's it this time.
All right, Mr. Beeler, back to you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to council online this evening?
No, Mayor Myers, there is not.
Thank you. In that case, we will close public comment. And with 6 o'clock, so we do have a public hearing this evening, we're going to move to item item BA, which is a public hearing, a closed record public hearing. I'm going to read from this part, so everybody. 8A. Oh, sorry. Okay, item 8A. This is a closed record public hearing to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation regarding a rezone request located in the vicinity of 103 to 107 North 40th Avenue and 3902 Somerview. The Planning Commission has held an open public record hearing and is recommending approval of the rezone application. The council at this point is sitting in a quasi-judicial capacity and is now charged with evaluating the Planning Commission's recommendation and the record and deciding whether to pass an ordinance rezoning the property from single-family residential R1 to small convenience center SCC pursuant to the recommendation. Any statements made during the hearing will be limited to the record regarding the rezone application. No other issues are in front of this council, nor may any be discussed in the argument or considered when the council makes a decision. In other words, because it's just closed public hearing, we are not allowed to accept any information beyond what was heard with the Planning Commission previously in their decision. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. As such, the appearance of fairness doctrine controls. Each council member must answer affirmatively or negatively to the following questions. I'll ask the question and have each of you answer. Question 1, do you have any interest in the property or the application, or do you own property within 300 feet of the property subject to this application?
No.
No?
My house is up the street from there, but I don't think it's 300 feet.
No, somebody's, yeah. No for me as well. Question 2, do you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this proposal?
Nope.
No.
Neither for myself. Number 3, can you hear and consider the application in a fair and objective manner without bias?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, for myself as well. Question 4, have you had any ex parte communication with the applicants or anyone else regarding this application? If so, please place on the record the substance of your communication so that interested parties have the opportunity to rebut the communications. Anyone had any ex parte communication?
No.
Neither for myself. Is there anyone here tonight who wishes to challenge any council member's participation in this application on the appearance of fairness grounds? All right, seeing none. Nobody's remotely. Okay, so we will now start the hearing. I'm going to start by having, from our planning department.
Is there anything that we need to?
There's nothing else here?
No.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just thinking about Leo.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, the church that's there, Simply Jesus, rents the building that's in that vicinity. I'm just a member of that church, and we just rent the building, so I'm not in any administrative board with the church or anything like that. I'm just an attendee, so I can't see where I would have any conflict of interest in making any decision in this.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. And does anyone here wish to object or disagree with that statement by the council member? All right, seeing no one, thank you very much. The only issue in front of the council is whether or not to rezone the property from single-family residential R1 to small convenience center, and therefore, the only issue in front of the council is whether to adopt or reject the planning commission's recommendation in favor of the rezone application. The council will not consider any evidence pertaining to other issues or evidence not on the record in making this decision. I want to remind the council, many of us have received emails with comments that cannot be considered in tonight's decision because they are after the fact of the planning commission's decision. We'll start with the presentation from staff with our senior planner, Eric Cole.
All right, thank you. On August 22nd, 2024, Digital Design and Development submitted a rezone application on behalf of Lincoln Legacy West LLC. This is a non-profit rezone located at 103, 105, 107 North 40th Avenue and 3902 Summit View Avenue to rezone from single-family residential to small convenience center. Pursuant to YMC's Chapter 15.23, non-project rezone applications shall also include a non-binding conceptual site plan to show potential future use of the property. The Planning Division has not received an official land use application proposing any future use of the site. Thus, the only thing being proposed and considered tonight is rezoning of the property. During the comment period, the city received comments from the Department of Ecology and a letter of support from a nearby resident. At the open record public hearing on January 8, 2025, individuals raised concerns about how future development would affect their property and the surrounding neighborhood. These concerns will be addressed when the applicant submits an official land use review application. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend rezoning the parcels from R1 to SCC, and the recommendation was signed by the Planning Commission Chair on February 3rd, 2025. And I'm happy to answer any questions council might have.
So I do have a question. I know you stated this, but I just want to be clear that there is no plan set for development at this point in time.
Correct. We have not received an official application to review. It's just a conceptual site plan of what may be there if the land were to be rezoned.
When the application comes through, will people have an opportunity to testify at that point?
It really depends on what is being proposed and kind of the scope of that. There's situations where public notice would be required if we determine that environmental review is required or another type of notice, but in other situations it might not be required. So it just really depends on what the applicant ends up officially submitting.
Thank you very much. Any other questions by council? In that case, I'll open the public hearing. I think we have one person who has asked to speak, and that is Daniel Tilley.
My name is Daniel Tilley. I'm a proponent of the project. I think it's going to be a great benefit to the city when we finally get it done. We've been working on it for a number of years to put it through the process. The city changed the future land use map because everything around the property is zoned for commercial use on all three sides, and this project's going to give us an opportunity to improve the neighborhood. Probably we're going to end up having to do some road improvements for traffic in the area, and which is generally part of any project planned. And at this time, there isn't any project proposed. It's just we've done some conceptual thoughts about what could be done, but nothing's done until it's done. But we haven't proposed anything. But I am a proponent of it, and I put the property together from the beginning. So I don't know if there's no new information that can be brought forward, but other than if you had a question, I can answer that. Other than that, I appreciate you taking this up and considering it.
Thank you, Mr. Tilley.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council at this public hearing this evening? Please identify yourself and state in which you live.
Thank you. My name's Leanne Lidicote, and I am the applicant for the owner of this property. And so I appreciate the time that was spent by the staff and the Planning Commission to review this in detail and look at the situation and the rezone of this corner. As Dan said, it is that corner of 40th and some of you, lots of traffic, lots of business and activity there. So at some point in the future, there will be a project that comes forward. And so this is just that first step as we look towards that future use of that site. So, but thank you again for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Lidicote. Anyone else? Mr. Beeler, is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to address in the public hearing?
No, Mayor Byers, there's not.
Thank you. If there's no one else, I'll close the public hearing and open it up for discussion by council. I'm sorry, did somebody wave their hand?
Open it back up.
I'll open it. Open.
My name is Sean Exner. I live on Kenny Drive, adjacent to 39th, where the place takes. I've lived there for 25 years with my wife. It's a really great neighborhood. I did have maybe a question regarding this, because I know this process has been applied, or this application has possibly, they've tried this application before, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it didn't go through. And I'm not sure why that didn't. I'm not a proponent of having a small convenience center rezone there, because it is a great neighborhood. We have a lot of kids that go around. There's two Kenny Drive and Bell Gold Loop around there that ride their bikes and stuff like that. And I'm thinking if anything is considered with a small convenience center area, that it might be opening up more traffic from 40th to 39th, access from 40th to 39th, not from Summit View or Chestnut, but somewhere along there. And I just have concerns for our neighborhood. And I know a lot of people use that. It's kind of like a park like that, but so that's all I just want to say. So.
Thank you for coming.
So I don't know, I guess my question was, I don't know if there was, I think probably 2 or 3 years ago, there was an application for this that fell through, I think, and I'm not sure why that fell through. I don't know if the council knows that or not, so.
I do not have an answer for that. Perhaps, Mr. Martin, I'm sorry, Mr. Cole, can you come forward?
I would just say that what happened in a past application isn't relevant to the issue that's in front of you.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if it was part of the record, but generally speaking, you only make a decision on the application that is currently in front of you with the information in that application.
Thank you.
More so is trying to answer his question, but yeah.
Was it okay to expand on that, Sarah? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So I don't believe this project or this site has ever gone through the rezone previously. It went through an initial comp plan amendment to change the underlying land use. And I believe at the time, it was more of a kind of a legal technicality that I think they didn't get all the property owners' signatures, because I think there were more property owners than there are now. And so I believe their first attempt at going through the comp plan amendment fell through, or they had to withdraw it. And then after that, the city actually initiated the comp plan amendment process. But again, only changed the underlying land use and didn't go through the rezone process. But as far as I know, this is the first time that the applicants submitted for an actual rezone of the property.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to again close the public hearing.
No one else? No one else? Okay.
All right.
questions.
I'm okay.
You asked if the
Okay.
council had comments?
I just asked that a minute ago, so we'll ask again. Does the council have any questions or comments? No. Councilman Roy, questions or comments?
I'm just looking at the site plan and all the property involved. That's it.
So I move to adopt the resolution, or what? What do we need now?
It's an ordinance.
Yeah, it would be to pass the ordinance.
So say that right.
I move that we pass the ordinance. How's that?
I'll second it.
So we have a motion by Councilman Glenn and a second by Councilman DCO to pass the ordinance. And we'll need the ordinance read, please.
This is an ordinance rezoning parcels 1813222-42486, -42487, -42488, -42489, -42490, and -42492 from single-family residential R1 to small convenience center SCC and amending the zoning map of the city of Yakima.
We'll need a roll call vote, please.
Brown,
Yeah.
Byers,
Yes.
DCO,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
Roy,
Yes.
Berg.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 7-0 and ordinance is passed. Thank you, council.
Just have to say that rolled right off the tongue there, Brandy.
Okay, now we're going to move back in time on the agenda to an open discussion for the good of the order, item 5. And our city manager, Vicki Baker, is going to introduce a very special person this evening.
I am. Good evening, council. I have been waiting for a little bit to have some relief, and help is here. So our new assistant city manager, Gary Ballou, is here, and he's going to come up here and he's going to talk a little bit about himself. But as he does that, I just want you to know that we are going to work together on the positive side of what is needed in our city and working on those projects that will help us grow our way out of our budget concerns over the next several years. So Gary's experience he will share, but he's already hit the ground running, working on the things that we've talked about, the mill site, the downtown revitalization, and the airport. So he's already here and already doing great work. And here is Gary.
It is just day 2. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Gary Ballou. I am your new assistant city manager, and it is great to meet most of you, and I look forward to meeting you all one-on-one and getting an opportunity to learn more about you. And it was a great evening for me to be here. I really enjoyed the public engagement and the people who have a passion for the city and who come in and engage council. I thought it was great. For the last 30 years, I've been an economic developer. It's my primary role. 20 of those, 2/3 of those, 20 years of that was spent in the public sector. A brief recap of my history, I started at Benton County. I started economic development earlier in that as a governor's fellow under the Lowry administration. But I started at the county as their sustainable development manager, became their deputy county administrator, or what my boss liked to call ODAS, other duties as assigned. I ended up, by the time I was done, running facilities and the parks department, and for some unknown reason, the defense, public defenders contracts, which I'm not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV. I went to the city of...
Sure?
Yeah, yes.
We're looking for public defense.
I understand, yeah. That is always hard to find. From there, I went to the city of Richland as their economic development manager. While I was there, I should mention, at the county, I created a public facilities district. I shouldn't say I prepared the documents that created a public facilities district. Going to the city of Richland, created a public development authority to create a wine science center out at WSU Tri-Cities, which was one of my pride and joy projects in my career. From there, I went to the Port of Pasco, working, and Port of Pasco is the owner and operator of the Tri-Cities Airport. So I helped in the marketing and getting some activity going at the Tri-Cities Airport Business Center. And I say all that to say there is a lot of very cool projects here. And I think, and this will sound
egotistical, and maybe it is, but I think I bring a wealth of experience to the city that I can help with a great team that's here and work together to get some of these big projects moving and get us, get the city of Yakima in a better sustainable funding state and also strengthening the economy while we're doing all that. So really appreciate getting to know you better, and thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you. Welcome.
Excited to have you here.
Thank you, yes.
Would you like to come out and shake hands at council and introduce yourself first? Sure.
Hey. My hand.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes. Nice to meet you, sir.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome to meet you.
Coming on board.
All right.
Oh, all right. I don't know that, obviously, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fist bump.
Item 6 on the agenda is council reports, and we have none this evening that I'm aware of. So we'll move into the consent agenda. All items listed are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. A council member may request to remove an item from the consent agenda, and if approved, it will be placed on the regular agenda for discussion and consideration. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Which item?
Item I.
Item I, all right.
And I'd like to remove L.
And item L, okay? And I am removing items H and J. So we have several items coming off the consent agenda this evening.
That's okay.
Can I ask
We're ready.
a question to Brandy?
Yes.
Why does the agenda already show them as removed on here?
So I get prior notice, and it shouldn't show that on yours, but it's us trying to prep minutes so that we know
I was
what's
like, wow,
happening.
they already just.
Prescient.
She can read
Yeah,
our
so when we're
minds.
trying to
Yes.
prep minutes,
Like, I've never seen that before.
yeah.
I haven't either.
Okay, so would you read the consent agenda, please?
Sure. Item A is approval of minutes from the March 4th, 2025 City Council regular meeting and March 11th, 2025 City Council study session. Item B is approved payment of disbursements for the period February 1st through 28th of 2025. Item C is February 2025 investment transaction report. Item D, 2024 fourth quarter financial report. Item E, project completion and contract acceptance with Prospect Construction, Inc. for WWTP Primary Clarifier Rehabilitation Project, WP 2631. Item F is project completion and contract acceptance for Knoble Electric, Inc. for the Russell Lane Improvements Project 2650. Item G is a resolution authorizing a contract extension with Connell Oil, Inc. for the purchase of bulk fuels and delivery of gasoline, diesel fuels, and related products. Item K is a resolution authorizing the acceptance and spending of the Yakima County Supporting Investments in Economic Development, SIED grant for a feasibility study to examine the wastewater infrastructure in the Wiley City area.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Brown and a second by Deputy Mayor Brown and Councilwoman Janiciccio to accept the consent agenda as read. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Byers,
Yes.
Decio,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
Roy,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 7-0, thank you. So all the resolutions are passed, adopted. Now we're going to go back and we're going to start with item H. I'm going to have Rob Hodgman, the airport director, come forward, please, to address both items H and J.
Good evening, Council. It's always a pleasure to appear before you. These are exciting times in aviation, certainly, and exciting times at the airport. So item H refers to an extension of the agreement with our air service consultant. We are hard at work bringing in additional flights. Going out and finding a new air service consultant is no small endeavor, something we want to get right. And so with the momentum we have, so the air service consultant that we currently have brought us back the second set of flights with the minimum revenue guarantee for Horizon Air. And we are very close in negotiations for potential Salt Lake connection, in addition to the preliminary indications we had from Horizon Air of a Portland destination. So this resolution basically extends the current contract for an additional 6 months to try and close those deals, while at the same time we formulate a very thorough solicitation for our next air service consultant. Any questions on that?
Is it coming out of the airport budget, or is it coming, how are we paying for another 6 months of it, I guess?
Yes, we are an enterprise fund. We get no money from the general fund. We have to pay our own way.
Okay, gotcha.
It seems like we've been doing it for 5 years, and to keep, how long do you plan on spending money forever on this? I'd like, we're very concerned about money, if you haven't caught on to that. And so anything we can do to save a few bucks, I'm all excited about. And so I'd like to hear the justification that, we've had them there 5 years and we got one more set of flights, and is it economically a wise decision?
That's a great question. Thank you. So first, if there's any concern or any interest in funds from the airport, the enterprise fund, it would probably be appropriate for me to advise you that one of the grant assurances that we have with the FAA is that no money can be siphoned off of the airport for any other purpose. Okay, so now that we've established that, air service development is an ongoing activity. As you know, during the pandemic, we lost our air service dramatically. To regain that is significant. Not only is it significant for the traveling public, but it is significant for the economic vitality and the growth of our community. We know that 90% of gross business income in the state of Washington occurs within 10 miles of an airport and 70% within 5. The airport is an economic engine, and it's specifically because of air service. So the amount of money that we spend with our air service consultant is a drop in the bucket compared to the economic growth that it brings to the community. We were successful in bringing one flight back, but we lost quite a bit. And for those who have been in the community for quite some time, they'll remember many, many flights we've had to many, many destinations.
Tons of flights.
Yes.
I wasn't here when that happened.
There are some of your peers who were. And so this is an opportunity to bring, so let me just give you kind of the concept, which is, in order to bring companies, meaningful companies here to our community, companies that have domestic and international business, air service is paramount. 2 flights a day to Seattle doesn't cut it. We have much work to do. So thank you for your question. I'm quite confident that continued investment in the air service development is a worthy investment.
Thank you.
If I understand correctly, though, the airport is an enterprise fund, which is a different bucket than the general fund.
Correct.
So people talking about the budgetary concerns tonight in response to what the city is asking in the survey are different buckets of money.
Correct. But like I said before, we would be in violation of the Federal Aviation Administration grant assurances if we removed any money from the airport. We would then no longer be eligible for any federal funding whatsoever.
Right.
Okay, any more? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we've been talking about how much we'd like to siphon some of the freight service from SeaTac over to Yakima. Are they working on this as well?
They are not. I am.
Who's they?
I hope you're more effective than they are.
Well, we have been, Mr. Hodgman has been working very hard on this, and myself and others going over, talking to the legislature, working in the same direction, trying to work with the new aviation group, work group that's forming as they come closer to making their decisions. So,
thank you.
Thank you for the work you're doing there. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I'm a kind of a dollars and cents guy. I didn't see it in here, but what's the monetary value of it extending this 6 months, the contract?
They get $6,000 a month.
Okay. So 36,000, roughly. Okay.
But I would say that, we'll be seeking another consultant. Who knows what the market price will be this time around? We might actually have a bargain right now.
Do you
That'd be
think,
nice.
do you think we need a consultant after we secure, I guess, we're just gonna keep trying to secure flights?
You know, when we get 20 flights,
Okay,
maybe.
yeah, all
we'll
right.
discontinue. We've got to wait.
I answered my own question as I was asking it to you, so, yeah.
Any more questions on air service?
Do we need to,
No,
do
we're dropping down to J.
we need to adopt this before then?
So I have to
Are we going to
thank,
drop them both together, or do you want to do them separately?
It doesn't matter.
Let's go ahead and do them separately. Would you read it, please?
Item H is a resolution authorizing a contract extension with Air Planners LLC for air service development and consulting services for the Yakima Air Terminal, McAllister Field.
Move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
So we have a motion to adopt a resolution by Deputy Mayor Brown and a second by Councilman DCO. We'll need a roll call vote, please.
DCO,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
Roy,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Byers.
Yes. Vote is 7-0. Resolution is adopted. Thank you, council. All right, let's move on to item J, please.
I want to thank the county for their continued support. We received from the county in 2024 a $750,000 seed grant, which is normally 50-50 split loan grant. It was a 100% grant from the county to help us do the design for the terminal modernization. This is a multi-year, tens of millions of dollars endeavor to take our 1950s terminal building and not only bring it up to current code, but to transform it for modern day travel. And we've got some exciting things that are coming from that. This resolution is to adopt an additional $2 million provided by the county to match federal funding for construction. So let me take a step back. As a result of Congressman Newhouse's 2022 congressionally community project funding, which is congressionally directed spending, combined with the $750,000 from the county, we are under design and well on our way with an architect, and you will see some construction this summer. This money, for this resolution, will match additional federal money, not only federal money provided again by Congressman Newhouse, but also AIP, Airport Improvement Program entitlement funds, and Airport Terminal Program grant funds for the continued modernization of the terminal. In addition to other projects at the airport, specifically the overflow parking lot, which I can talk to you about if we have enough time for that. So this is a tremendous win. And I would say that it's a little preliminary. I still need a little bit of input from Sarah, but we have a potential offering from the county for $500,000 air service development from the seed account once again, continuing for 3 years at $500,000 each year. So please, when you see our commissioners at the county, please thank them for their robust support of our airport.
Yeah.
The 4 projects that we have on tap this summer include Phase 1A, which is the upper level roof and HVAC replacement in the terminal, which we attempted last year, and it was a bad bid climate, and we had 2 non-responsive bidders, and so the project went back out for bid. And I'm happy to inform you that last Thursday we had a bid opening, and we're still working to finalize, but it appears we have a responsive bidder coming in well under budget, which means that the funds that we had allocated can now be reallocated to additional modernization in the terminal building. Also last Thursday, we had a walkthrough with 4 contractors for our solar canopy project, which is 100% state funded through both a Sustainable Aviation grant from WashDOT and a Community Aviation Revitalization Board loan from WashDOT, waiting for the legislature to pass the budget, so that's contingent upon that. But it'll be an exciting opportunity to not only reduce the electricity demand and the cost, the operating cost of the terminal, but also our footprint, our carbon footprint. We are at 60%, and by this Friday going to be at 90% design for a new baggage claim and bathroom remodel on the ground floor.
Yay.
The baggage claim room will double in size. We will get rid of the roll-up doors and the stainless steel slide and replace it with a ADA accessible belt carousel.
Nice.
And we will transform the 2 existing bathrooms, create a new family bathroom and a family separate room, families with children and that type of thing. A vending area initially, and ultimately down the road it'll be a cafe. And then the 4th, these are all this summer. The 4th is the overflow parking lot. We have experienced a dramatic uptick in parking at the airport. About 75% occupancy of our parking stalls during the winter weather, which is typically when we're at our highest volume of passengers. But in addition to that, as I mentioned before, we have 2 flights in the queue coming early next year, which I think will dramatically increase the demand for parking. And we also have the construction project that's coming that's going to disable parking for a few months, as well as all the vehicles from the contractors that are going to be working at our airport. So we've asked for funding from the legislature, waiting for those budget bills to pass. But we have a fallback position of a less expensive parking lot if we don't get the funds from the legislature. So that's what we've got going this summer. We are pursuing design for a new ticketing area, which will be next year, as well as the baggage screening area and the air cargo. And separate from that, we're also pursuing, we have the funds in hand, we're just waiting for FAA approval to rehab the runway 422, the crosswind runway, which is almost rubble and desperately in need of rehabilitation. So I ask your support in approving this resolution, and I'll take any questions if you have them.
Any questions, council?
You're going to be busy.
Are you
You
sure?
already are, but you're going to be more busy.
Are you sure we shouldn't put that baggage carousel on the historic register?
The old one,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
the slide.
I don't think I want the building on the historic register.
Then we can't do anything with it, Rick. All right.
Would you read the resolution, please?
A resolution authorizing the acceptance and spending of the Yakima County Supporting Investments in Yakima Development, SIED, grant for capital improvement projects at the Yakima Air Terminal, McAllister Field.
Move to adopt the resolution.
I second it.
So we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Brown, and a second by Councilman DCO to adopt the resolution. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Glenn,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
Roy,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Byers,
Yes.
DCO.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes 7-0. Resolution is adopted. Thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Hodgman.
Thank you, council.
All right, now we're going to go back to item I, which is a resolution authorizing a supplement agreement with FCS Group to provide the integration rate study. And Mike Shade is going to be.
Irrigation?
Yes. Yeah.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. So this item is for an irrigation rate study, which will recommend appropriate rates based on customer base, review of the historical financial performance of the utility, an evaluation of existing financial policies and practices, capital funding needs, operational forecast, and the revenue requirements to support all that. In January 24, the city entered into agreement with FCS Group to perform the consulting services to evaluate the rates and fees of the domestic water system, water utility. This supplemental agreement number 2 will allow FCS Group to provide the required professional services needed to perform the irrigation rate study. So with the significant capital investments into the Nelson Dam removal and the pipeline project over the past number of years, our current debt service, the need for future capital improvements, an in-depth professional evaluation of the irrigation utility is necessary. So supplemental agreement number 2 will provide that irrigation rate study in the amount of $42,079, and funds are budgeted from the irrigation operating fund.
So the irrigation operating fund is an enterprise fund.
It is an enterprise fund,
So
correct?
again, it does not affect the general fund.
Right.
Thank you.
And that's currently budgeted. Yep.
I look at it, I have several private irrigation districts in Yakima that I paid money on, and I also pay for some that the city operates, and it's like, prices are already well higher, And then the thought that is entering my head is, why are we spending $40,000 to figure out how much we want to charge? Can't we figure that out ourselves?
You know, with current staffing and the expertise needed to do a really in-depth analysis of the irrigation utility, you know, including all the items that I've mentioned, that's really something that we need a professional service to do. We just don't have that internally, that professional expertise in those rate studies.
Interesting.
So it's $42,000 to pay a consultant for a study, or how much would we pay a staff person to hire them to do the same that had the expertise?
A lot more than 42,000.
Yes, a lot more than 42,000. So.
If you could find them.
Yeah.
What's the total revenue of the system right now for irrigation?
You have that right off
the top of my head.
Yeah.
You caught me. Yeah. I can get back to you on that. Yeah. Yeah.
He's coming up.
Oh, Mr. Bailey, welcome. You can help us here.
He's got the whole budget pulled up on the computer right there.
Actually, I don't have numbers in front of me, but what I do have is a little bit more of an explanation. So when a rate study is performed by a firm such as FCS, and they're one of the best in the state, used by all the cities with large systems like yours, then they do a complete, they work with staff to create a complete financial plan. And as was mentioned, there's a lot of capital investment that needs to be made. And staff has come to me and said, we need to borrow money. And you can't really borrow money unless you have that strong financial plan developed by recognized expertise as kind of the foundation upon which to talk to the bond markets and others, so that you then have that credibility to attend to those capital needs by borrowing funds in the bond environment. All of that is factored into developing this plan, and it will determine what it's, it will recommend, that's a better word, it will recommend to council what it believes the rates should be, and a rate structure that allocates those rates equitably against all those that rely on a system like this. And so those combination of things kind of make this more complicated than just figuring out how much should we charge people. It's much more than that, and I thought that might be helpful for the council in your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
My pleasure.
Any other questions for either Mike Bailey or Mike Shane?
It's the mics.
The other thing I'm kind of wondering about, you say we just spent a ton of money up there on the dam, but is there any plans in the future to, for example, eliminate all these open canals we have running through the city that have been there for going on a century, some of them, and probably well beyond their useful life, having a pressurized system without the danger of having these open canals all over the place?
Right.
Is that something that's under consideration at all?
Currently, we did have open canals. The last length of open canal was along Willow down H Street, and we piped that a number of years ago, and that was the last stretch of open canal that we operate. We have some outside the city, closer to the diversion off of 40th and Highway 12, but within the city, all the open canals are privately owned.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Nope. All right. And clerk, would you read the resolution, please? Resolution I.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was out of order there. A resolution authorizing a supplemental agreement with FCS Group to provide an irrigation rate study.
I move to adopt the resolution.
I second it.
So we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Brown and a second by Councilman Decio to adopt the resolution as read. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Herrera?
Yes.
Roy?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Byers?
Yes.
Decio?
Yes.
Glenn?
I'm in a no mood. I think I'll go with no tonight.
All right. So motion passes 6-1 and resolution is adopted. Thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Rick, I always like how candid you are, man.
All right, we have one left, and that is item L. And our Chief of Police, Sean Boyle, and our Lieutenant Troy Adams are here to present to council.
Hi, Council.
I'm Tori Adams, Lieutenant with the Yakima Police Department, and the chief's here with me to go over item L. I was happy to see the community response here. I like to see that type of passion. And I'd like to address some of the concerns they have, because they're important concerns. And not all the information I think was accurate, and it's easy to get it mixed up. There was a lot of information out there. So we'll hopefully I'll clear it up as best I can. We'll take questions that you might have. One of the first things I heard, or one of the things that I heard from the community members, is that they didn't want us to partner with Axon, and they had a variety of reasons for that. The city has been partnering with Axon since 2004. That's when we first deployed tasers to our officers. It's a less lethal option. It gives our officers one more tool when they're dealing with people that are not obeying commands. A lot of the choices that we used to have, we don't have anymore. Things that went away during the 2020 uprisings throughout the country. There were some reform changes within our state as well that removed some of the tools that we used to use. And so for less lethal tools, we have a couple of options. We can use a baton, which never looks good. We can use our fists and our knees and our feet, which doesn't look good. Or we can use a taser if it comes to that. And the taser is really good at immobilizing people. It takes the fight out of people, and it stops instances pretty quickly. And that's why we use it. Since beginning in 2004 with the taser, we started with one of their models, and I won't get too into the weeds with this, but that was in 2004. We're now in 2025. There's been 4 generations of models since then. In 2022, we came to the council and asked for funding to get to the newest model, and the decision was to make, no, we're not going to go to the newest model, we'll let you buy the one behind. So that's what we ended up doing, and we ended up buying that model, which is what we have now. Well, fast forward to now, Axon, that company, doesn't make that model anymore. And so now, as our tasers, the batteries quit working, they get destroyed, they get beat up, they stop working, we can't get them replaced. And so now we have officers, they receive the new officers, the recruit officers, they receive their training on tasers when they go to the academy. The state academy is requiring us to equip them with tasers to go to the academy so they can have this training. We didn't have tasers to give them, because every single taser that we had, we gave to our officers on the street who actually need them. We got so low on tasers that we took the tasers away from our detectives, who also go out on the street occasionally, not as much, from them to give to our officers on the street because they needed them. Luckily for us, we pled to Axon that we're having these issues, and Axon gifted us 30 more tasers just to get us by. In the fall of this year, we brought this to council for our budget request, was to ask for the tasers, to switch out the old tasers that we can't get anymore with the new tasers, to have that funding added to our general fund. That request ultimately was denied. And so the chief and I were left with an option. What do? We run the risk, we're getting close again, running the risk is as these tasers go down, we're not going to have officers in the field with a less lethal option other than the ones I've already explained to you, which none of them look fantastic. And so Rudy from our purchasing department was like, hey, you have funding, the police department has funding, and that's another thing on here, in your capital fund, about close to $800,000. We could use some of that money to purchase these tasers. And that's ultimately decided what we decided to do, and I'll go a little bit more into how that figures into this. The next community concern I heard was that this is a $1 million deal. It's not $1 million. Over the life of the deal, it could be $1 million, but it's $105,000 this year. What the department is going to evaluate is whether or not we can continue funding this from our current funding source into the future. That purchases 85 tasers. That gets rid of the X2, well, actually keep the X2s we have now to give to non-frontline staff, so at least they have some sort of taser, the older taser, I'm sorry. But the newer taser will go to the frontline officers. If we would continue the funding through 2026, we would pay for it out of our capital fund again, our capital reserves. In 2026, 2027 and 28, when we go to the new budget cycle, this is going to be a topic of our budget request again, is funding this program going forward. Axon used to structure these programs by You purchase it, you own it, and that's what we originally bought from. The problem with that now is everybody's got away from that because as you break it, they're no longer able to buy them again. And so almost every vendor is now, just about every vendor that I can think of, is now going to a lease program. The advantages of the lease program is when it breaks, they replace it. When there's a new model out, they replace it. If something goes wrong with it, they replace it. We're not without the tools that we need anymore when you go to this lease program. So the original 105,000 for 85 tasers, that would be enough to outfit our patrol, our line officers, the ones that are on the street, with a few extra in reserve in case we need something right away. We have also other detectives, we have people in our jail. All these people are equipped with a less lethal tool that eventually we'd like to roll out more to, which in year 2 we'd like to get another 85. And that's where this contract starts to get larger in cost because we're adding to it. But the understanding is that we may not be able to do that. And Taser is aware of that. Or excuse me, Axon. They changed their name to Axon in 2015.
So if I may clarify here, so we're not doing $1 million up front?
No.
This is something that's paid out over phases, 105 or whatever the agreed price is per year?
Yes.
To lease and for them to service?
Yes, the contract that you have shows 105,000 expenditures in 2025. It shows that same 105, or a little bit more, in 2026 with an added 150,000, which is the bringing on the other 85 units that we were hoping to get deployed and bring the department back into fully equipped.
And is there the option, if budgetarily things don't go as we hope they will go, that we can get out from underneath a lease? Is it long-term lease that we're locked into, or?
Yes, that was the point I was getting to, is Axon is okay with us walking away. We're just gonna have to hand them all of our equipment, and now you have officers without less lethal options other than the ones I've already described. One of the other concerns was that this wasn't the cost of this wasn't coming from the police budget. That's not accurate. This is actually coming from the police capital budget. This is our funding. Another concern I heard is that Axon would have ownership of all images. I think this more refers to the Axon body cameras, which we don't have. We have cameras in our cars. Almost every technological company that we know of they host. That's the whole advantage of going to companies like this, is they host all the technology. Most cities are using Microsoft. All that data is being hosted on Microsoft servers or on Amazon servers. Most of the federal government, I think, is on Amazon servers. So while technically it's on their property, it's our data. When a public disclosure request comes in for the data, they don't make the request to Axon. They make it to us because we're the ones that have to provide that. And this is a discussion I just had with one of the city legal lawyers a couple days ago, so it was very interesting. There was someone mentioned surveillance, and the comment was over the community engagement feature. And I think that I didn't write the agenda list, but I think that was a misnomer on the agenda. The community engagement, the feature is actually called community request. And so what the community request feature, as you can imagine, almost everybody that I know has a cell phone, probably you guys too. Not only cell phones, surveillance images, Teslas now have cameras, lots of car dash cams in cars. When we go to crimes, these crimes are caught on these videos. Many times, especially when we go to convenience stores, the people don't know how to use the DVR in their store. They don't know how to get the video off their phone, or they got to wait for it to get downloaded to a server someplace. We can either wait for those things to happen, or we can send a detective a few days later to try to get this stuff from the owners or whoever. The community request feature allows us to text them a link, and once they have the link, they just send the media through the link, and then it automatically is uploaded into our evidence system. That's what the community request feature is.
So the request is you requesting from the community
Yes.
to voluntarily give information?
Yes. Now there's a larger component to it that we're not involved in, and that is to share. Like if you had surveillance cameras at your house, we could ask you to share it with us so we could look through your cameras in real time. But that's called a real-time crime center. We don't have that. That's not what we're asking for. Another community member said that that this was military technology. Military, they usually use fatal rounds. These are less lethal rounds, so they're really not the same thing. taser's obviously not going to be as bad as a bullet. So I don't know where that came from. And then someone also mentioned the excessive number of tasers. I think that I get this a lot from the community. I think that people think our town is a small town. And maybe when you look at it, we're 100,000 people, maybe that's so. But we have 140 officers, not including our jail staff. That's a lot of people. And we have to equip every single one of those people that are on the street and dealing with the community. So when we say this is an excessive number of tasers, right now we're asking 85, which isn't even enough to cover the entire department. So I just wanted to put that in perspective. The last thing I wanted to address was the VR training, which is in there. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced VR training, the virtual reality training. It's an immersive training. When you're in it, it feels like it's in the real world. VR training is as close as we can get to reality. Our police department is pretty good with training. We do a lot of what's called scenario-based training. We'll set up scenarios. We'll give an officer, hey, this is the call you're going to go in there and deal with it. And they have to, obviously we don't give them real guns and stuff. We don't want them to hurt anybody, but they go into these scenarios and have to deal with a situation that they're faced in. That's scenario-based training. In order to do that, we still have to put a lot of protective gear on. We have to use a lot of things that make it feel not real. When you put VR training, use that. It feels and looks real. And the training is immersive in such a way that it teaches the officer when they should use a taser, but also importantly, it tells them when they shouldn't use the taser. And it allows us to look, and they have analytics that go with it, to let you know when you see people, if there's trends arising and when there's not trends arising. Not every taser training involves someone getting tased at the end of it. And almost every scenario-based training that we do, there's a training in there where the officer doesn't deploy force. In almost every single one of them. And I just wanted to touch on this as well, is that scenario-based training, which is just a part of, is something the Police Executive Research Forum indicates that more police departments should be doing. In fact, there was a bill in the Senate in 2023 by a Democrat in Ohio that pushed it forward, that they wanted scenario-based training as a rule for police departments. It didn't pass the judiciary, but this is something that is real. I'm proud that our department has been doing a version of scenario-based training for about 15 years. So this is just the next evolution of that, and it makes us better officers. In the VR training, there's a lot, because I heard this as well, there's a component in the VR training when you are talking to a person and trying to talk them down. You're trying to get them, you're trying to defuse a situation. And as I'm sure all of us know, there are situations where that's not possible. You can try everything you can, and it just won't diffuse. And at some point, you might have to use force. And these tasers let us use that force that's not lethal, that's, doesn't look bad or beating people to a pulp. We don't want that. And with that, I'll.
In addition, does the department do de-escalation training?
Yes, almost every training, like I said, scenario-based training, has a form of de-escalation into it. With the exception of probably active shooter, almost all of our training, I can't think of another training, doesn't start with some sort of de-escalation. The only time there's not de-escalation is when it's life and death. You just don't have time to say, hey, maybe we should try calm down. You don't have that. So, but yes, all of our other training includes that.
And you do,
go ahead.
And you do have teams from comprehensive or who go out with you sometimes when there are situations where someone is maybe suicidal or in crisis or.
Yes, we do. We call them DCRs. They're teamed with our officers. They are deployed into the field, but we can't use them unless the scene is safe. And there are situations when we're using DCRs. It's usually somebody that's mentally unstable, that's having a manic episode or something to that effect. Sometimes they can be de-escalated. There's a lot of times they can't, especially if there's substance abuse involved, and it's difficult. And when me out of uniform like this, or you guys, when we're on the street and dealing with somebody that's having some sort of episode like this, we can walk away. When the police department are called, we can't. So we're there until the situation resolves itself. So we can't in my opinion, we shouldn't be eliminating tools from the officers.
One last question. Go ahead, you ask yours first.
I bring this up only because of the comments that I've heard from the public tonight. I would almost bet my life that I have interacted with the police more in the last 2 years than anybody else in this room. I've found them to always be professional, and when you treat them like what we hire you to be, you're there to enforce laws and to protect people. You're not there to be our enemy. That's a huge factor. And what I see when I look on the internet is confrontations with police. The only ones that get seen, the ones that get viewed, are the ugly confrontations where it turns ugly fast and stays ugly. So in my mind, as I listen to the comments tonight, we really need as a community to start recognizing that you are there to be a protector and an enforcer of the law, and you deserve our respect. And talking about all these other issues is really inappropriate, because we didn't hire you to be a mental health counselor. We hired you to enforce the law. So I heard all the comments tonight, and I appreciate that. However, there's a reason why we have police, and I think that we're actually doing a pretty good job of it. From my experience, every time I have police show up, I don't feel uncomfortable at all dealing with them. And and it's not just because I'm a city manager, I don't think, or a city councilman. I think you guys are, for the most part, very professional, and I appreciate it, and I hope the community appreciates it.
Thank you.
So I mean, I'm a tech guy, so I take data security pretty serious on this. But the comment was brought up tonight is, well, we don't own your data. And you kind of addressed that. I think the other aspect of this, though, is that, I mean, any of this footage or anything that is captured in the, that you were requesting and they send it back, I mean, it becomes public record, correct?
I guess it depends what we're talking about. So we're a little far afoot because that part of it is kind of more towards our dash cameras, which has nothing to do with what's in front of you. This is more about tasers. But if we want to explore that topic, we can. Perhaps what you're talking about is if you're a victim of a crime and you have it on video and you want to share that with us through the community.
That's what I'm talking
community request
about.
link. Okay.
Yeah.
So that comes into repository. That becomes evidence of a particular crime. I would defer to the city attorney on this, but generally that's not disclosable to the public until the case has been adjudicated.
Right.
That's correct. I mean, anything that the city uses in any document form for any purpose can be considered a public record under the law. The question is whether or not it is disclosable, and there are a number of exemptions both in the Public Records Act and other acts that would perhaps not make it disclosable, but that's correct. Things during an investigation are generally not disclosable, but after the investigation's over, the file is generally disclosable under the Public Records Act. I mean, with some exceptions, depending on, obviously juvenile records, things like that, or not.
Which is available to anyone in the public if it gets to those areas.
And one thing I'll add to that, because it's a good point with the tasers in general. All the tasers we have to download them. So they connect them to a device and they get downloaded. So we know when the triggers were pulled. We know what cartridges were used. I think they're even getting to the point where they're GPS number. We know where they were deployed at. I could be wrong on this version of it. But the technology is great to the point where it really captures all the evidence that we have. So when we do have something that comes up like, hey, this didn't look right, or hey, someone's complaining about this, we can have a way to look at a lot of information to get a good idea of how the situation really looked. And there was one other thing I want to talk about was the number of cartridges. So there was 170. If we were able to do the full length of the contract, which we're not saying that we're going to be able to do, but it's 85 tasers plus 85 tasers the second year would be 170 tasers. Each taser gets 10 cartridges. They hold 10 cartridges, so 10 would go into each one. That's 1,700 cartridges. We actually get more than that because they give you training cartridges as well. So every year you train on them and you deploy cartridges that don't have, because the tasers come with some electricity shock. These wouldn't have shocks, but it shows you where you're hitting on a target. And then there's additional cartridges that are inert. They don't do anything other than just make a clicking sound, just to kind of, it gives you a repetition, muscle memory repetition as far as how to pull a trigger and things like that.
That was actually the question I had, so I'm glad that you explained that, because I heard a lot of things from the people that are here this evening, and we really appreciate. And because the things that you shared with us have brought before the council questions that we were asking and wanted to be answered. So thank you for doing that, and thank you, Lieutenant Adams, for being here. Chief, would you like to come forward and say anything to us?
Well, I think Lieutenant Adams did a very good job explaining each of the questions that may have arisen during this, but I think that the only thing I'd like to add is this is an option that's a less lethal option, and I think Lieutenant Adams talked about our less lethal options that we have. They would come down to carry pepper spray. We have kinetic energy, which are 40-millimeter batons that are shot, and those have a higher level of potential of causing injury to people, not just the person that it's used on, but to general citizens in the area as well as the officers. So the taser actually reduces the number of injuries to officers and to the person that it's being used against. And as you limit the amount of less lethal options, the higher escalation of force sometimes has to be used by the officers. And then just to touch base on the ability for people to send in videos that are associated with crimes. Almost everybody has it, and there's a significant amount of it that's out there. And every time we send somebody out into the field, you're talking about a cost balance analysis of how long it takes. If an officer has to drive to someone's house, download it, and then bring it back, you're looking at a significant savings, and we can gather a significant amount of evidence quickly, and then the detectives can analyze that and be able to move forward with and hopefully solve the cases in an expedient manner rather than waiting days sometimes to get the evidence that we need.
And it's completely optional.
It's completely optional. We provide it to the businesses or the individual person or witnesses, and they can choose to send it in or they can choose not to send it in, correct?
Right. So, go ahead.
Just to kind of give us an idea, you use it 10 times a week, 20 times a week, once a month. How often do you use tasers?
Tori kind of manages our use of force, but I don't have the exact number, I can get it to you later, but every use of force that we do is reviewed at the sergeant level, lieutenant level, and then if it's a higher level enough use of force, it's referred to the captain or the division commander. Some of them end up on my desk depending on how high a level of use of force it is. But each of those, we talked about the taser downloads. Each time a taser is deployed in the field, it is downloaded. We can see the amount of cycle. It's a 5-second cycle that it runs for, and we can see if it was pulled multiple times, and so that it was applied multiple times in a short period of time. And then as there's a whole questionnaire, and I think we went over it when we did. Chief Murray went over the way we're changing our use of force being reviewed. It has the reasonableness necessary, and was there a lawful purpose behind it? Was aid rendered to the individual, and then was it within or outside of policy, and then we make corrections if they're outside of policy. So I would say, how many taser points are you? I don't want to guess and give you a bad number, but it's not we're not tasing people every day, multiple times a day.
And I would add that the mere sight of a taser, and we have the ability to set a taser off without deploying darts. I don't know what the percentages are on that, but that is sometimes enough to bring order to a situation that's disorderly.
Mr. Herrera.
I think you mentioned it earlier on your timeline. I see the payment summary for 2025 would be around 105,000, and then you also did mention you might have to come back in 2026 or 2027, which would be 100,000 in 2026, and then in March, and then another 155,000 in May 2026. So would you have to come back to get that approved by council? Or was that because you said it is a year by year basis contract?
Yeah. So that funding is currently coming out of our capital fund. During the budget process that we went through in the fall, that's when departments have the opportunity to put this stuff in their budget and request this money in their budget. We requested it from our general fund. It wasn't funded. So this funding request we're asking from our capital fund, which has the funding. That's just enough to pay for 25. So next year, we're going to have, and the chief and I are aware of this, we're going to have to reevaluate the capital fund for the police department. Can the capital fund pay for this for another year? We'll be coming to council again saying, yeah, we looked at it, we evaluated it, the need is too great for us not to pay for it for one more year out of our capital fund. my expectation is, if I'm still here, is that the year after that, we'll be coming to council again saying, hey, we need to move this funding to the general fund. The police capital fund is not particularly meant for these kinds of things. It's meant for building improvements and, there's we have a huge list of things that we think we need, so.
So, is there any other questions? If not, I have a closing question.
Yeah, one more question. It's almost unrelated, but you hear advertisements all the time about burner launchers that they shoot non-lethal shells and they also shoot tear gas. Do you guys have any opinion on that? Is the general public wise to even try to use those things?
I'm not familiar with what was the name of it again, sir?
Burner launchers, they call it. It's like a gun that's powered by CO2, but it sends out a slug that's supposed to disable you, or tear gas.
Well, I just know from advertisements on some things that I listen to, and it sounds like it's just a non-lethal round. It looks like a normal firearm that shoots a non-hard plastic or rubber non-lethal round. Tasers, the public can buy tasers, so I imagine they can buy the burners as well. They can buy normal firearms, the public can, so they can put what we call simunition rounds. It shoots just like a normal bullet, but it shoots out a piece of plastic. So I guess I don't have a personal opinion on their use. Not for the police department, absolutely not, but for the public, I think it would be fine, yeah.
Anyone else? If not, I have a question that may be unrelated in one way, but I'm hoping will help. What opportunities do people in our community have to experience or learn or engage with our officers?
In the past, we've run community, we've run several outreach type things. We advertise on our social media, Coffee with a Cop, and being out in the public. We've run a use of force experience last year. I think we were able to have about 20 people in it. We're running a similar type thing this week. We're going to get ready to roll out Block Watch at the end of, I spoke to actually Yvette today, our PIO, about advertising it in April and then having a general meeting for the information and meeting in May to be able to talk about how to bring that into your community if you already don't have it in your neighborhood. And we'd like to have the opportunity to do more of those types of educational pieces. They're also staffing intensive and usually on the weekends, and which then runs into overtime, et cetera. But I encourage you to watch our social media because we do post everything we do, that we try to engage with the community on there and take the opportunity to come down. On top of that, we have the ability to, if you have questions, you feel free to reach out to our department. If there's something that we can provide educationally to either your business or to you individually, or just, stop and talk to a police officer and you're out there. And I appreciate the kind words about the officers because I echo what you say. I'm kind of biased, but I think we do have a very professional police organization, and the men and women work very hard every day to do the best that they can for the community, and things like this or us, or having the opportunity to provide them with the tools to provide their job effectively to make the community safer.
Well, I'm going to agree with Councilman Glenn with the high regard that I have for any interaction I've had with the police department, even prior to my being on the council. Thank you. And I just, again, because one night I was driving home from a council meeting, it was raining, it was dark. I failed to turn my lights on and didn't realize that. I just was driving down the road wondering why it was so dark. And was pulled over by one of our officers, and the driver's side window of my car does not work well, so I'm frantically trying to get the driver's side window to go down and focused on getting that done. I look like a crazy woman. And the officer must have been laughing, I'm not sure, but he walked around to the other side of the car and tapped on the other window, which of course scared me to death. And then I rolled down that window, and he said, "Do you know why I stopped you?" And I said, "No, I have no idea." He said, "Because you don't have your headlights on." And he didn't even, at that point, I don't think, recognize me, but I just started laughing. I said, "What? I just left council meeting." I said, I wonder why it was so dark. And he goes, "Oh, I know." I know you, Mrs. Byers. But I mean, it was just one of those hysterical things, but he was very professional, very kind to me. He didn't laugh out loud. So I just want to thank him again for that.
Did he give you a ticket?
No, he did not. He just wanted me to turn my lights on.
What's
So
the matter with him? We need revenue.
I know.
Well, and I guess I would like to just say, thank you for what you guys do for our community. The other aspect in regards to the data piece, for the community that, is concerned about this data piece, I would get off social media, and I would probably turn off anything that you're doing in the real world because all of those companies have very similar terms of service on what data that they control. And in this sense, this is public data and you're optional to provide it. And so anyways, I think from a data perspective, I think it's not like we're, coming to grab the data from you. It's you have to provide it and 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 it eventually might become a public record. I think that's the other aspect of this, which then it is the public's data. So you do own it at that point.
Councilman Rivera.
Comment question. Yesterday I was at the OIC board meeting and I was handed a flyer about the youth program occurring at the Henry Beauchamp Center. And it just got me thinking about the Eastside Sports Program that was around when I was growing up. So it just goes back to investing in the youth. So if this is a bigger topic off the tasers, so just making sure when we're talking about budgets and stuff, we're investing in the youth. So maybe they get off the streets and have things to do. But can you talk about the youth program?
Mr. Parks from the NAACP and then OIC partnered with us, and we want to expand it to a larger program on how to have police interact with the youth in the community. And then we're starting with the small. I think tomorrow is going to be, Thursday is a smaller group, and we want to kind of expand it. But it's obviously breaking down the barriers between the officers and the people in the community. And, Mr. Parks talked about how to interact with the police, because a lot of people just, what do you do when you're stopped on a traffic stop? And having that educational piece is kind of where he envisions it moving forward to. And he wants to have 100 kids, which I wholeheartedly support, but we're working our way up to that. And so it's something that we're partnering with OIC and the NAACP to bring the police and the people in the community, or the young men and women in our community together.
Great.
Yep.
Thank
And
you for
with the
raising
Explorers,
that question, Mr. Herrera.
we're also using it as a recruitment for our Explorer program. It's youth between 15 and 21, and it's people that are young adults that are interested in becoming and working in law enforcement, and it gives them an opportunity to help. They serve the community through the Scouts of America. It's an offshoot of that, but they help with, number one, they learn about policing, but they also give back to the community by volunteering at different events throughout the community. And so part of the idea is, I think we're targeting the kids who are a little bit younger and having them move up, and hopefully they'll get them interested in a career in law enforcement, because ultimately we'd like to recruit our next force from within our own community.
Yes.
Because they're vested in the community, and then as they move up and they become interested in serving our own community, I think they're a lot more vested than people that they're somewhat they have to become accustomed to our community. So
Any other questions or comments? If not, Chief, thank you. Lieutenant, thank you. We appreciate your time. It was helpful. Clerk, would you read the resolution, please?
This is a resolution authorizing the execution of a master services and purchasing agreement for the purchase of police tasers and community engagement software from Axon Enterprise, Inc.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move to accept or is it a resolution?
Adopt, yeah.
Adopt the resolution.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilman Decio and a second by Councilman Berg to adopt the resolution as read to council.
Comment before voting, or?
Yeah, you may. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think Lieutenant said it, but the community engagement is not the right wording, so
Right.
I think we should change the ordinance or the resolution.
The name, it's not community engagement software.
Yeah, it is community
Request.
So we are requesting, and information is voluntary. Can we do that legally at this point?
Yeah, we can Councilmember Herrera can move to amend it to community response software, and that would need a second. And if that passes, then there would need to be a motion on the amended.
You raised a question. Would you like to propose the amendment?
Yeah, I would amend the resolution to say contract for purchase of taser and community. I just forgot it. Request?
Yes.
Community request.
Software for the police department.
I'll second the
Thank you.
amendment.
So we have an amendment on the floor, a motion by Councilman Herrera, second by Deputy Mayor Brown. Any comments on the amendment? If not, then let's just take a council vote. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the amendment is now changed in the resolution. Would you read the new resolution, please?
This is a resolution authorizing the execution of a master services and purchasing agreement for the purchase of police tasers and community request software from Axon Enterprise, Inc.
Thank you.
We already had a motion, or
Yeah.
We have to start over because we amended it.
Yes, there needs to be a new motion.
Okay, a motion.
So I move that we adopt the resolution as read.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilman Decio and a second by Councilman Berg to adopt the amended resolution. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Roy?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Brown?
yes.
Byers?
Yes.
DCO?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Herrera?
No.
All right, motion passes 6-1, and the resolution is adopted. Thank you, council. All right, we are moving down out of consent. We passed at the public hearing into department items.
We made it.
The first is item A, which is an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise to Gigabeam Internet. And Randy Beeler, our communications director, is going to present to council.
Good evening, Mayor Byers and council members. Earlier this year, Gigabeam Internet LLC, which we call Gigabeam, requested the grant of a telecommunications system franchise from the city. Gigabeam completed the application process by submitting the required documentation and other information necessary for the city to process its franchise request. City staff completed all necessary due diligence and determined that Gigabeam meets the criteria to be granted a franchise. City staff recommends that the council pass the ordinance granting a franchise to Gigabeam.
Is this residential internet?
It's both. It's both commercial and residential.
Sweet.
Will it utilize any city utility lines or easements, or is it totally independent or wireless or what?
No, it's not wireless. They will be using city rights-of-way. That's what the franchise is for. It authorizes the use of city rights-of-way.
So they'll be buried, or will they be on the poles, or?
Different places in town, they will be above ground, possibly below ground in other places.
Any other questions by council?
Do we need to read the ordinance?
We do. I'm getting ready for that.
Okay, all right. I'm ready.
Don't jump the gun here.
We said 7:30.
If there are no questions, can we have the ordinance read, please?
This is an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise, Gigabeam Internet LLC, Gigabeam, to construct, operate, and maintain a telecommunications system with all necessary facilities within the city of Yakima, Washington City, setting forth provisions, terms and conditions accompanying the grant of this franchise, providing for city regulation of construction, operation, maintenance, and use of the telecommunications system, prescribing penalties for the violations of its provisions, and setting an effective date.
Thank you.
I move to pass the ordinance.
A second.
So we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Brown and a second by Councilman Decio to pass the ordinance as read. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Berg,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Byers,
Yes.
DCO,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
Roy.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 and ordinance is passed. We'll move now to item 9B, which is, thank you, Mr. Beeler, appreciate that. A ordinance amending Yakima Municipal Code, chapters 8.01, 8.20, 8.72. And Bill Preston, our Community Development Director, is going to present to council on this.
Good evening. Good evening, council. So as you just mentioned, this is, we're bringing three amendments for three ordinances, 801, 820, and 872. Just real quickly, most of these are just text changes, trying to clarify and clean up our existing municipal code on streets and sidewalks. So for 801, just talks about the violations and penalties associated with non-compliance of this particular streets and sidewalk code. Essentially, it does a pretty good job of outlining the clear and process that the city would go through for violations of this code, which wasn't really clear in that one paragraph. 820 is the right-of-way use permits. Primarily, this clears up some of the references to other codes where we would rewrite the same code, which sometimes doesn't make a whole lot of sense because then if you change that, you got to change it everywhere you've rewritten it. So this just refers to one place. Makes it much easier to make corrections or amendments later. It does remove the small wireless part of this code into its own section, which Trevor will present following me. And then finally, the right-of-way permits were done out of community development, not engineering, where the rest of Chapter 8 is out of, so it actually takes the right-of-way and puts it over into engineering so that that's, engineering has authority over the engineering, excavation, and right-of-way permits now. And then finally, 872. This one again refers to the excavation permits. This is contractors working within our right-of-way, like franchises that we just talked about, right? They need an excavation permit to install those. And so again, it clears up the violation piece, referring them back to one section rather than rewriting it, and then cleans up the language, giving the authority to engineering rather than the old name that engineering used to have. So that's it.
Any questions or comments, Council? I would just say it just sounds like it's just making things more efficient.
Trying to,
Putting
yes.
things in the
Yep.
correct department in related areas.
Yep.
House
Right.
cleaning.
Yeah, house cleaning. Okay. Clerk, would you read the ordinance, please?
This is an ordinance amending the City of Yakima Municipal Code, Chapters 8.01, 8.20, and 8.72 relating to working in and use of the right-of-way.
Madam Mayor, I move to pass the ordinance.
I second.
So we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Brown and a second by Councilman Decio to approve the ordinance as presented. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Byers,
Yes.
Decio,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yeah.
Herrera,
Yes.
Roy,
Yes.
Berg.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 7-0 and ordinance is passed. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Preston. Next is item C, which is an ordinance implementing a new chapter in Yakima Municipal Code. And Trevor Martin, our planning manager, is going to address council.
Hello, good evening, City Council. So I have another piece of housekeeping for you. It's Chapter 820. Essentially removing that Chapter 820, creating a new Chapter 821, and removing almost all the language in there and referencing Chapter 1529, which is a fairly robust self-cell tower chapter that we have under the zoning ordinance. So this chapter was a little bit redundant. It kind of doubled up on some things, so we're just kind of removing it and referencing a code that's a little bit better suited to handle it, essentially, is what it is.
It sounds to me like these changes are not only to make it more efficient, but easier for people to approach the department and apply for things.
Yes.
We always want things easier.
And that's kind of the first thing here is like, please reference Title 1529. So it's like, okay, just go there.
Any questions, council?
You just delete it?
Clerk, would you read the ordinance, please?
Is my cell phone a small wireless facility?
I don't know. It could be.
No.
No.
We'll let her read the ordinance now.
This is an ordinance creating Chapter 8.21 in the City of Yakima Municipal Code relating to small wireless facilities in the right-of-way.
Thank you.
I move to pass the ordinance.
I second.
So we motion by Deputy Mayor Brown and second by Councilman Decio to pass the ordinance. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Byers,
Yes.
Decio,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
Roy,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 7-0. Ordinance is passed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Okay, that brings us down to item 10, which is our city manager updates, and I believe that our city manager has some updates.
I do. I have one. Am I live?
No.
Now you
I
are.
do have one thing for council to consider tonight, which is the AWC Annual Conference coming up in Kennewick, June 24th to 27th, down Three Rivers Convention Center. 2025, we do have funds for council to do this conference. So if there's any interest, I'd like to find 3 council members. So Councilmember DCO is interested, Deputy Mayor Brown. We have room for one more without having any issues. Councilmember Glenn would like to go. Okay, well, that was easy.
Okay, well, there we are.
Okay.
I just need to check to make sure, but I should be able to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, check your
Yeah,
calendar.
June 24th to 27th.
Okay. So if you're not available, just please let us know as soon as possible. Somebody else might be wanting to go, so, okay. All right, thank you. Anything else?
I think we've had enough. That's it
All
tonight.
right, thank you, Ms. Baker. Okay. Now we move down to other business. Does any council person have other business?
I don't have any other, it's not necessarily business, but I was gonna ask the council, so there's a bill, I don't remember what the number is. Do you remember what the number is?
Don't remember the number. You're talking about, the AWC had put out an action alert.
Yeah, it's basically, I mean, it's almost setting up cities for future lawsuits in regards to,
Let's see, Randy.
homeless, encampments, issues. And I'm just wondering if this council would like to take, I don't know, a letter that we can send to all the legislature. AWC has been really harping on that they don't want this bill to pass. I believe it has been moving through. I think it's moved through the House, and it might be at the Senate, or it's the opposite way. I can't remember.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and I know that many of the cities are already working with the legislature not to pass this bill, so we're hoping that they'll listen to cities, but I think Councilman Brown and Deputy Mayor Brown is asking that we would join them in an effort as a council to say we don't like this piece of legislation.
Can we get that emailed to us so we can see the deets?
We could put together a letter. I could work with Randy Beeler to put together some language. I think that has been done in the past. I thought if Randy's still in the building, he must not be. But we can get that together for next week. If there is something,
He's coming.
is he coming?
Here we are.
Oh, here comes Randy. He'll tell us
House Bill 13.
what is typical.
Tell us what's going on.
Thank you.
Oh, I see.
So I didn't hear the very last part. Yeah, I heard what is typical.
You're on. So they would like to take an official position on this bill. And so they're asking for what is typical for councils as far as putting together a letter. What would you suggest?
Well, you can certainly do that. Typically, what we will do is sign in whatever your position is, pro or con, during a hearing on the bill. We also direct our lobbyists in the legislature to talk with our delegation and other significant legislators about the city council's position.
Would it be appropriate if we're going to do that, to have one of our council representatives sign up to give testimony and read the letter to the entire legislature?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yes, and that can be done either, generally speaking, it can either be done remotely or in person.
Okay, thank you.
If we don't do it this week, it'll probably be too late.
It may very well be, yes.
Is this the bill that makes homelessness like a protected class?
Yes. Well, our attorney says no, depends on
I
interpretation.
think this is the bill where the legislature is saying that time, place, and manner restriction ordinance have to be objectively reasonable without defining what objectively reasonable means. This is a law that's already in place in the state of Oregon. Originally, it essentially mirrored that law, and that law is being used in a number of lawsuits in Oregon right now. So I don't think it's I remember last session, there was a homeless Bill of Rights law. I don't think this is the same one.
But in essence, it also removes some authority from local governments to make decision.
Right, so all ordinances regarding time, place, and manner restrictions or unlawful camping ordinances would have to be objectively reasonable and undefined. And then anyone who thought that our ordinance was not objectively reasonable could bring a lawsuit against the city under that statute. And I believe there's an attorney's fees clause if they prevail, but not a reciprocal attorney's fees clause if we prevail defending it. So there are a couple of issues there that you might want to address.
The bill number, by the way, is it's House Bill 1380.
Yes, I think Mike just had that up for us, so, yeah.
It does, I'm looking on the legislature's website right now. It doesn't look like it's out of committee yet, so maybe it's dead. I don't know.
Well, I think
jinx it,
that
man.
still, is there, when
Huh?
is there, is
Don't jinx it.
I don't know.
there going to
I'm,
be an opportunity for a hearing?
I'm not a
on it?
legislator at the state level.
Is there an opportunity yet for a hearing on it?
Let's see.
So if there's a fiscal impact, I think they can continue through session, past the policy.
It says it's been referred to rules to review.
Oh, then it made it out of committee.
Okay.
It says
So
it's
then we
pending
would
in the
want to
House Rules Committee, right, as of today.
Okay. So if we put together, with the help of staff, Mr. Beeler, our attorney, a letter that expresses our opposition to certain aspects of the bill, that could be, next session is a study session. Could we put it on the agenda specifically so that we could vote on it?
Yes.
Well, we don't have one for next
Well,
week.
I know, but we're asking for one. So I guess the motion would be to direct staff, if you would do that,
What am I asking?
to direct staff to write a letter.
Okay.
Yeah. And get it to us so that we can look at approving it at this next study session, so it'll be on the agenda.
There's not a meeting until April 1st.
Yeah, we don't,
well,
that's what I'm
So
saying.
if you need it approved before then, you're going to have to, you're going to have to set a special meeting, and that would be the item on the agenda.
Up to
Yep.
council.
As an alternative, you could tonight simply take the position, you don't have to write a letter. You can simply take the position that you wish to take in favor of or opposed, and then that is the message that we'll communicate to our legislators through our lobbyists.
Can we take an official,
So you would make a motion.
well, I'm saying,
For the
hold
council.
hold on. Can we take an official position as a council that we're opposed to this bill? And then we can actually comment and do those things in our official capacity.
I'm looking at the attorney.
Because, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the council unless
Right.
it's an official stance.
Right. So you can move, I think the answer is, isn't that what you just said? That you could take an official stance, I mean, you're going to have to suspend your rules and vote on a new matter tonight that's not on the agenda, but you could move whatever you wanted tonight, and that would be the official decision of the council.
We need to, hear the language of it and
Yeah.
to decide if we really oppose
It's
it.
kind of hard to vote on it when you don't know exactly what's in the bill.
So then we were back to original motion. Somebody might make an original motion for staff to present to council on the next agenda, whichever meeting that may be, and if we are in agreement with that, because we'll receive it ahead of time, then we can vote on it at the next council meeting.
When do you think this is going to be voted on?
Well, I'm trying to do a little
He's multitasking.
quick research
So
here.
That's
we
what
could
I'm
also
trying to do.
just, I believe you could decide individually to track the bill and make comments and sign in on the bill,
Yeah.
just as a council member individually.
As I'm looking at it, it says, where is it in the process? And it says it's still in the House. We've already passed the deadline to still be alive. Pardon me?
It passed out of the House. It's over in the Senate, and it got passed out of the House into Senate rules.
According to my website, it says it's in the House in committee, and it hasn't been to the Senate yet. If that's the case, it's dead.
It was
Maybe-
just, no, I think that what Gary is saying is that,
I'll come over to the mic, because I
Thank
know
you.
the
Sorry, not to
AV
create
guy
confusion.
doesn't like it when I speak without the mic, because people at home can't hear me. So yeah, it was passed out of the House, and it has made it over to the Senate, and it's in Senate rules. It has not been scheduled for a vote in Senate rules, and I'm not sure when the deadline is for what's it's called, the House that didn't, or the
Non-origin, what's it called?
Original.
yeah.
yes. So there's House of Origin, and then, yeah.
So personally, I think that a letter from the entire city council would be far more impactful. So if it's just going into rules and we have a bit of time, my first preference would be that we do the letter and bring it into our next agenda, including time for us to give a little feedback back to staff or city manager about it. And if we find out, if anyone, council person or staff person finds out it's moving more quickly than that, then we can individually get on and testify to our legislators.
Can also call a special meeting.
Or we could call a special meeting.
You can.
So the brief history of it is, it says requires that any city or town, code city or county laws that regulate the act of sitting, lying, sleeping, or keeping warm and dry outdoors in public property that is open to the public, and any enforcement of such laws be objectively reasonable as to time, place, and manner. It also requires that any state law that regulates the acts of sitting, lying, sleeping, so on lands that are open to the public, and any enforcement of such laws be objectively reasonable as to time, place, and manner.
See, how do you say what that is? I mean,
That's part of the problem with it. The people are complaining about it. It is so vague that they can take anybody to court and make an issue of it. Creates a private cause of action for injunctive or declaratory relief to challenge the objective reasonableness of such a law. We don't want that.
So would council encourage or not encourage the mayor to call a special meeting if we need to be in a hurry about it?
If we had to, I'm in.
We need to.
If we need to, okay, so that's.
Just maybe not Tuesday.
That's the second option. First option, if we have time, is to get the letter in. The second option, if we don't have time, is to get the letter in through a special meeting, which I would call, and would last probably 5 minutes.
Could we do a Zoom?
Yeah, your council rules allow you to all appear by Zoom, yes.
We could do that.
Remotely.
Yeah, so if you're going to be on vacation, you can say, I know.
On vacation, I understand.
All right, so I think that's the best plan. Council agree with that? So you want to make your motion for,
Do I need to suspend the rules here?
yes,
Yes.
Yeah?
yes?
Okay. I move to suspend the rules to
Take action.
take action by drafting a letter in opposition to HB 1380, to direct staff to draft a letter.
Wait,
Has to be separate motions.
I was going to ask a question, sorry, I apologize.
On-
If you're going to put it on an upcoming council agenda, which I think is your first priority action item, I think you can just move to direct staff to put it on the next agenda.
That's why I was not, I
wasn't fully
wasn't
tracking.
understanding. I retract what I just said. I would move to add to the next council meeting on April 1st, a direct staff to draft a letter in opposition of HB 1380.
Second.
So we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Brown and a second by Councilman Byrd. Thank you very much. Couldn't remember which one of you did that. At this point, to direct staff to write a letter in opposition to House Bill 1380 to come into the next city council meeting.
That's what I
All in
said.
favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Because I have some things, but I'm on you all to go first.
I got nothing.
Okay. All right. I have 3 motions. It should be fairly quick. The first is I move to bring to council at our next business meeting a proclamation for Arbor Day.
I'll second.
All right. So I moved and Councilman DCO second for, to bring into the next business meeting a proclamation for Arbor Day. Okay, I move to bring to council. Oh, I'm sorry. You do need to vote.
You're not used to making motions.
I know, I don't make them. I don't feel comfortable making them. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, council. All right, and make a second motion to bring to council to our next business meeting a proclamation for the National Day of Prayer.
Second.
So I motioned and Councilman Burke seconded to bring to council to our next business meeting a proclamation for National Day of Prayer. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Last one, we may get out of here before 8 o'clock. I move, this is in connection to something coming next year, but I move to bring to our next business meeting a proclamation and an action for America 2050's 2 Lights for Tomorrow initiative.
What is that?
Learn about it.
Yeah, do we discuss it here or just bring it into council? Because it's kind of a discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, if people don't know what it is, I think you can
Okay,
explain to
so-
what it is.
It's your motion.
20, yeah, 2050, I don't want to just defend the whole thing here, I just want to say that in America 2050 is a celebration of our 250th year anniversary as a nation, which is next year, 2026. There's an initiative coming out ahead of time for something called Two Lights for Tomorrow, which is a special day of recognition, preparing for that.
A second.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. I have moved and Deputy Mayor Brown has seconded to bring to our next business meeting a proclamation and action for America 250's Two Lights for Tomorrow initiative. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then it passes 7-0. If there's no further business, yes, you have other business?
I wanted to give an update on the Homeless Coalition Executive Board meeting today to the council. So we passed a motion based on our resolution. We passed a motion out of to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners today to increase city representation on the executive board. That will be going sometime in front of the county commissioners, but I wanted to let you guys know that that is a motion that we made today. And it passed, and it'll be adding, the recommendation is to add a Lower Valley city elected and a Mid Valley city elected position. So,
Thank you for the update.
Thanks, Matt.
That guarantees it'll get the people off the streets, right?
I have no guarantees.
We have a lot of work to do in that area, so, all right. Mr. Herrera.
Okay, I was gonna do a last meeting, but I think this is just more business meeting to get more people. But I want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Austin and the Yakima Valley Sports Commission for hosting the WIA tournament. And I want to give a big shout out to the Davis girls basketball team for winning Forest State first time in history.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I was able to go to the game. I was there.
I think that this weekend also, at 2 different locations, is the March Madness Youth Basketball Tournament. And for those of you who don't know about Rosie's Rosebuds, the cheer team, they will be performing, I think, about 11:30 or 12 o'clock on Saturday at one of the sites. So an opportunity to go out and enjoy. Anything else? Hearing nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn our meeting to our next regular council meeting on April 1st at 5:30 PM here at the City Hall.
A second.
So we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Brown and a second by Councilman Decio to adjourn to our next regular meeting on April the 1st, 2025, 5:30 PM here at City Hall. All April 1st jokes will be accepted. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
That's going to be a long meeting.